There's no question you're never going to agree all the time on everything with anybody. Just not going to happen. That's natural. It's about balance in life. You find people sometimes that you agree with more than others, what have you. But bottom line is, you're never going to agree with every decision or every choice that somebody makes. And that even holds true for people that you really admire or you really respect. You look sometimes and those decisions can be the most frustrating or the most irritating or the most questionable to you. And I would say in terms of NFL head coaches, because of the man that he is, what he's overcoming and still going about doing his job, his performance as a coach over the years, I have a crap ton of respect for Riverboat Ron Rivera. It doesn't just tie into the fact that he's a former Bear. It certainly doesn't hurt, but certainly a lot of loyalty there to me personally for Coach Rivera, and certainly somebody that, as an NFL head coach, I've rooted for first in Carolina and now in Washington. But just like anybody else, you can respect somebody and have questions or concerns about decisions and choices that they make. And just because I respect Riverboat Ron in no way, shape, or form is going to make him immune from my criticism when I see something that deserves to be criticized. And boy, oh boy, dear God Almighty, I have absolutely no clue what Ron Rivera is thinking here. You're a quarter of the way through the season, and you decide now that you're going to bench Dwayne Haskins, the kid that the organization took 15th overall in the first round last year, the guy that got pissed and screwed around by Jay Gruden before he finally got some type of an opportunity last year to play. Now, kids come in, year two, working hard, but new system, limited personnel around them in terms of playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, really, name them. Outside of McLaurin, name them. Exactly. So your team is sitting at 1-3. But you think, because Haskins has struggled, that Haskins hasn't been very good, that this is the time to bench him. And not only bench him, but bench him in favor of a guy that in some ways you could argue helped you lose your job last year in Carolina in Kyle Allen. What the hell's going on here? Like, it would be one thing. It would be one thing, even though I would have my concerns and issues with it. It would be one thing if Ron Rivera was saying, right now, I feel the best thing for our football team, the guy that gives our team the best chance to win at the quarterback position is Alex Smith. Because at least with Alex Smith, you could say there is quite a lengthy history, especially with his time in Kansas City, of winning NFL games as a starting quarterback. There's a pedigree there. There's a feel-good story, kind of a comeback vibe there as well, especially with him overcoming that significant severe leg injury from a year and a half, 2 years ago. Like, certainly, if you made that decision, while I wouldn't necessarily fully agree with it, especially at this point in time of the year, at least I could understand it. At least I would be able to grasp and get the rationale and the kind of motivating factor here. Is that you look at Alex Smith and you say, we'll be able to move the ball a little bit more consistently and so on and so forth. I get that. You want the veteran presence there. You may feel like you trust him more. You might feel like he's a better leader. I would get all of that. Again, wouldn't necessarily agree, but at least I would get and understand and appreciate kind of the mindset and thought process and rationale here. But benching Dwayne Haskins for Kyle Allen just seems like stupidity of the highest order. Who knows if Dwayne Haskins is going to be the long-term answer at the quarterback position for the Washington football team? Early indications are he's not. But have you truly seen enough yet to sit there and say that he's not? I don't know. And now you're sitting there a quarter way through. Surely your offense has not played up to standards. Surely your offense has struggled. Surely you understand and appreciate that your offense has to be better. And I totally agree with all of those sentiments. But right now, if we're being real, Part of the reason the Redskins are 3-1 is because their defense that was supposed to be good, that I thought was going to be good, has been trashed the past 3 weeks. And even the game they won in week 1 against a bad Philadelphia team, they still went and got behind 17-0 like that. So his defense was supposed to have this great front line and at least that front 7. Like, they haven't played well them damn selves. Giving up a lot of points. And now you're talking about they're coming off of the game against Baltimore. Baltimore's an elite team. Baltimore's a Super Bowl contender. And maybe you sit there and you look at Lamar Jackson and you say, God, look at where he's at. And you look at Dwayne Haskins and you say, God, look at where he's not at by comparison. But damn! Can a brother get a break here? I mean, seriously. Like, this is the type of crap that concerns me. And certain people are going to sit there and bring up kind of the racial component and double standard of how black quarterbacks are treated versus how white quarterbacks are treated. And by God, as a Bears fan, when I look at how long it was obvious that Trubisky sucked, and yet he continued to get opportunities until he finally got benched this year in year number 4, and I look at Haskins and the crappy, dumpy situation that he's been put into and how little bit of a chance he's gotten and how quickly it seems like this organization is ready to give up on him, similar to what they did with RG3 years back, even though the organization in large part contributed to the downfall of RG3 in Washington. I say, you know what? It's hard to argue against that. Even though I think it speaks more to overall incompetence in the mindset of that Washington football organization. That said, this is not the best look if you're trying to battle against that. Especially when you look at the division that you're in, the dumpster fire that is the NFC least, and you could argue that Dwayne Haskins isn't even the worst young quarterback in the division. And I don't think he is. That's Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones' team is 0-4. Daniel Jones' completion percentage is about the same as Haskins. But he has fewer touchdown passes and even more interceptions and more overall turnovers. Yet I don't see Joe Judge tucking tail, turning and running away from Daniel Jones and throwing him on the bench, even if you could make an argument, maybe you should. But how quickly you look at Ron Rivera and this Washington organization, and they're already ready to tuck tail between their legs, turn and run away from Dwayne Haskins, when they're still 1-3 and they're still in the mix in this really crappy division. And I know Ron Rivera's argument, at least one of them is going to be, is that we feel like a change is needed. And when you look at the current state of the division, like we feel like getting better at the quarterback position is going to put us in a chance to potentially get to the playoffs. It certainly could. But I would argue, if anything, because your division is crap, and knowing only one team from the NFC least is going to make the playoffs anyways, and the Eagles are kind of a wreck, or a mess at least. The Cowboys are playing like a dumpster fire on defense right now. They're 1-3. And good God almighty, do the Giants suck. I would make the argument that this is the perfect season to stick it out with Dwayne Haskins and see what the hell you've got in the young man. Not bench him. Potentially ruin his confidence. Potentially ruin any momentum that he's had. Because he's not going to learn from sitting on the sidelines. That's just stupid, dated NFL groupthink. The best way to learn is trial by fire. The best way to learn is experience. And either the kid steps up, rises up to the occasion, and shows that he gets it and can do it, or he doesn't and he can't. But in a year where potentially 8 wins, maybe 7 wins, maybe less, could win this division based off of the way it's looking a quarter of the way through the year, I would think, if anything, that is exactly the time to stand behind your man for this year, Dwayne Haskins, because if nothing else, you'll want to find out by the end of this year, literally, truly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, whether or not you got confidence in him for the long term. Because if you don't, and you know that he can't be the guy long term, then you head into 2021, and you got to find another quarterback and start the process over again. Benching him for a Kyle Allen doesn't get you any closer to that. And even if you say, well, if they win some games with Kyle Allen, then you've just basically said, I've screwed the pooch for a guy that's not the long-term answer, therefore undercutting the guy that could have potentially been the long-term answer. That's just not a smart way to conduct business, in my humble opinion. It just isn't. Again, if it was Alex Smith, that'd be one thing, but it's not. We're talking about Kyle Allen here. Maybe if your defense had played better, you wouldn't be in the same spot as well. Think of that. And realistically, how much more did you expect from Dwayne Haskins in an offense where McLaurin's a stud and his other pass-catching options are largely garbage? How much are you expecting out of an offense where you don't really have a featured marquee running back? People are going to talk about from a fantasy standpoint, like Antonio Gibson. What's he got? 4 games, less than 200 yards rushing. Whoopee! And that's going to help him out? Since his organization ran off Trent Williams like they've run off so many other people and eventually traded him, now you put Dwayne Haskins in a situation where he doesn't have an elite blindside protector. Like, what the hell type of situation did you put Dwayne Haskins in where you can sit there and make the call so damn early in his career that he's not the dude and he's not the right guy for you at this time? What? Tell me. Answer me. You can't. And you might think that Haskins is booty cheeks. And to be fair, some of what you've seen early on indicates he could be. He might not be that dude. But especially if you're a Washington fan, wouldn't you rather go ahead and find out now for sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt this year? What happens if Kyle Allen goes in and your offense still sucks, and in a couple of weeks, you're 1-6 or 1-7, or maybe you're 2-6 or 2-7? Whereas maybe Haskins just shows a slight bit of improvement, and maybe you're like 3-4, 3-5 halfway through the year. You could potentially have had a better record and gotten more development and more growth out of the guy you just spent a first-round pick on last year. I'm telling you, some of these coaches and the thought process behind their decisions just frustrates the ever-loving piss out of me. You have a quarterback who played for you last year that as the season went along got worse and worse to the point where it led to you getting fired before the season was even over. And now you're saying he's going to be the best option for you? Oh, my God. I feel bad for Dwayne Haskins because he's getting screwed here. Royally screwed. All the pressure and expectations of trying to be the guy with none of the benefit of the doubt extended, none of the opportunities given, none of the help needed to actually be able to truly find out whether he could be that. And some NFL teams wonder why they consistently end up in that same cycle of mediocrity to suck. It's because of dumbass decisions like this one to put Dwayne Haskins on the bench in favor of Kyle freaking Allen. Give me a break.